Now, straight after Kent tonight, we have a brand new episode of Kent Film Club where we look at the impact certain films have had on our guests' lives. Well, joining me now is the show's presenter, Chris Deacy. Chris, what a crazy week it's been. Who would have thought a general election would have been called? And it made me think, have you seen any films, kind of political films or films where perhaps there is a general election happening?
Yeah, many in America. Now, there are lots of films around political campaigns. I think of Mike Nichols's Primary Colours. I think of Definitely Maybe as well, which is like a rom-com with Isla Fisher in it, Rachel Weisz. There's also set around the 1992 election that led to Bill Clinton's election as American president. So you get a lot of this, but political thrillers are really big, sort of very much in the guise of All the President's Men, often involving, corrupt administrations. Watergate in the 1970s pointed to all of this. Often you've got more sort of fictional variants on that. Murder at 1600 is a good example from the late 90s with Wesley Snipes, often leading to some shadowy figure in the White House who turns out to be either the president, him or herself, or their chief of staff.
I think I've seen a political thriller thinking about it.
But in Britain, there are those as well. I'm thinking of House of Cards. Now, Michael Dobbs, who was deputy chairman of the Conservative Party in the 1990s, and also before that under Margaret Thatcher, wrote the House of Cards trilogy with Francis Urquhart as the Prime Minister, with some very shadowy goings on. So in a way, I reckon that as the election unfolds, we'll be turning to a lot of those kind of dramas, which in some cases might actually prove to be more, almost, should we say, realistic than maybe the things that are going on in politics.
Politics isn't something that necessarily appeals to everybody, though, is it? So how can you, I guess, present it in a way that is going to keep people interested for these sort of big Hollywood films?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because often it's the dramas underneath that. Think of The Ice Storm, Ang Lee's film from the late 90s, which sort of has as its backdrop the resignation of President Nixon, but it's very much grounded in the life of a family and all the sort of the goings and forwards and backwards, and the way in which actually the things that are going on in the political arena impact on real families. So often that's a good way through it, like a rom-com. Plenty of films with a political campaign like Definitely Maybe as the backdrop to that. So but of course you also have those films like The Iron Lady that are about the individuals, but often they show the very personal side, what motivates an individual. So whether you're into politics or not, you might look at a film like that where Meryl Streep won an Oscar for playing Margaret Thatcher, and actually find that whatever your politics, you can at least see how she got to power, and showing some element of sympathy. Meryl Streep was famously not necessarily a great admirer politically of Margaret Thatcher, but as a person, she obviously gave a lot of gravitas to that role.
Well, I guess we don't really know what to expect with the general election. I wonder if in years to come there will be films made about this general election, and we may be having the same discussion in, say, 5-10 years or so.
Well, there was a film in the late 2000s, 2008, called Swing Vote in America, where it's down to one vote, one man, played by Kevin Costner, and he holds, it's based on what happened in Florida in 2000. So you have that sort of personal drama. The one vote of one individual could swing it literally for the election. So it's things like that. If it's a very close-knit campaign, if the result is very close, who knows? We could have those dramas that, the Oliver Stone, like he made a film about George W. Bush a few years ago while George W. Bush was still in office. So you never know what could be happening by the end of this campaign.
But for those who aren't interested in politics, what can they be watching instead? Okay,
well, completely different. I love Shirley Valentine, and there's a French film called Two Tickets to Greece, to Athens, and this is all set on the Greek islands, and to a mismatched couple. It's a French film, and also a great nostalgia theme, because they were childhood friends, they don't see each other for decades, they're chalk and cheese, they come together, and they go on this holiday, which could be a nightmare, but of course inevitably they start to sort of see things a bit more in alignment, but it's very much in that sort of mode. I love that. Complete antidote. So if you're really not into politics, go and watch that. It's at the cinemas this very week.
And quickly tell us what's coming up in your show tonight.
So we have now Kate Griffiths, who has, she's a makeup artist. Now, one of the films is a film that's just come out on the streaming channels, and she went over to Eastern Europe to make it, and she was involved in the makeup on that film, and it's brilliant to see her sort of talking about how the work that she did on the film has, actually borne fruit, and you can watch that and the clips of that tonight in one of her chosen films.
Brilliant. Yeah, you've always got such a range of guests on. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to seeing that.
Thank you, Sophia.